Hello and welcome to the OMG podcast. I'm Sam and this is the OMG podcast. Today we are on location at a gentleman who is infamous in the motorsport world. He is a British Superbike champion. He is a British Grand Prix winner. He is a British truck racing champion. He is a European truck racing champion. He is or was a former or current world record holder and a whole load of other accolades which we will probably discuss today. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Steve Parrish.
I am.
Hello.
How you doing? I'm all right. Are you good? On location, but you're not far from home, are you? That's
No,
the nice
you're
thing
only-
is it's an easy trip for you.
Absolutely, 15 minutes down the road.
Perfect.
Almost neighbours.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
Thank you for having us, or having me.
That's all right.
Yeah, this has been in the pipeline for a little while and we've managed to synchronise watches.
How many shows have you done now?
You are number 3.
Okay, all right. Okay, early doors. All right. Okay.
Absolutely.
On the podium, I'll be on the podium for the
You would.
ratings anyway.
The
Whatever.
important part of
Could
the podium.
could be third.
There we go. So let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Where did your illustrious career begin?
Ooh, I wouldn't know if I'd call it illustrious, but you are now in very much my patch, I guess you could say, as far as where I was born and bred and lived for most of my life. All centring around kind of Herts, Cams, Beds border near Royston, which some people will know of. And I don't know, it didn't. My illustrious career didn't start as being an illustrious career. It started as being a bit of an idiot that kept getting expelled from schools and things, but loved engines.
Okay.
And a lot of people think I kind of started on motorbikes, but I started on anything that had an engine, and that could be a Austin J4 van to a Triumph Herald to an Austin 7 to a BSA Banter, anything that went fast, anything that scared me a bit, and anything that gave me an exhilaration of tearing around. So I was just probably a petrol head as a kid, wasn't interested in much else apart from tearing around, going fast, and being probably a hooligan, I guess you'd say. So that's where nothing's changed. So that's where it all started. And I would have been about 10, 11, 12, that sort of part of time. Fortunately, I lived very near to a disused airfield called Steeple Morden, and there was runways and things you could go around. And I just loved buying anything I could afford, which is usually, budget was £5, sometimes stretched to £6 if I washed a few more cars. And it usually lasted about 3 days before it exploded and blew up because it was knackered and shagged because I paid so little for it. And that's really where it started, yeah, I guess you could say. And I had no idea I was going to end up now, as I am, 48 years without a proper job, having managed to sort of squeeze the lemon every little bit from whether it be racing motorcycles, running motorcycle teams, racing trucks, commentating, running theatre shows, you name it. And I'm now sorry to say I'm 71 years old and still loving every bit of my work. So I'm a very lucky bloke.
You really are. So, bike racing. You're synonymous with bike racing. The world of motorsport knows you for bike racing predominantly.
Yeah, and it is my true love. I'm often asked the question, what did you prefer, whether it was bikes or trucks or whatever. And nothing will ever compare to my time racing motorbikes because I was young, foolish, stupid, survived it as many didn't, scared the shit out of myself on regular occasions, mixed and met so many brilliant people, famous people, you know, I never forget racing against Giacomo Agostini, Kenny Roberts, Barry Sheene, you name it, all those names that I sort of had posters on my wall when I was a kid, and I ended up meeting them, racing against them, and now I can call them, the ones that are left, friends. So, yeah, it's just happened, really. I as I said, rode around the fields and then sort of gave up on bikes a little bit, mainly because I didn't like getting cold and snowed on and wet and everything else as you do with motorbikes. I had a motorbike when I was 16, and in fact that bike I've still got in my gym outside here where we live, the very same bike that I started buying it from Hallands of Cambridge. Blew it up and seized it up and all the things that you do. And then I had a bit of a spell where I didn't ride motorbikes because I managed to get my car licence at 17, as you could then. And the girls preferred being in my Morris 1000 than they did, or Mini or whatever I had at the time, than they did being on the back of my Yamaha YDS3. But then I met a bunch of guys in a pub in a village called Harston that were sort of like-minded bikers like me. And we didn't much enjoy darts or snooker or things, football, whatever you do in pubs. and we decided we'd have a motorcycle racing team. And that's exactly how it started. That team was born out of a pub in Harston, and it was called Porous Racing, and mainly because we were poor as piss, and the bike was porous as far as how much oil came out of it, so it seemed to fit in quite well, and a whole bunch of us got together, and I was the one that didn't really have any talent, maybe, apart from riding. There was a guy that had some money, a guy called John Wright, who owns a lawnmower business, and he's still running that business over in Shepworth Way, Melbourne. There was a fellow that did engineering work. He was a proper machinist. There was a bloke that did paint spraying. There was someone that did electronics. So we cobbled these bikes together with all their skills, and they sort of looked at me and think, well, what can you do? Well, you better ride it. And that's how it started.
You got the short straw.
And so it was just sort of serendipity. And things turned up and happened. We did club racing, never ever expecting to make a career out of it. It was just a bit of fun at the weekends. Tear off to Snetterton or Brands or Cabell in our Bedford van or whatever we had, CF Bedfords and Dormobiles and shite, Thames vans, you name it. Part of the fun was getting to the event because you never knew if you're going to. The big fun was coming home because you'd race with other Ford Transits or whatever it would be. And it just went on from there. I started doing quite well, won some amateur club races, bought a better bike than the one we built. The one we built was a Triton because that's what you could build cheaply. Bought a Yamaha TD2B from a fellow called Roger Keane from Amersham, and that same bike is in my garage. I keep buying all these bikes that I used to race. Cost me a fortune now. And I won sort of club championships, and then happened and sheer, again, serendipity, a bit of luck. A fellow called Harold Coppock saw me racing my little TD2B, which by then was probably 6-7 years old. And he said, I've been watching you, you're doing really well on that bike. I'd like to give you a more modern bike, a water-cooled TZ 250 and 350, which moved me up to the next level, and I started winning and doing well in national championships, beating all the established guys, or some of them, Steve Manships and Tony Rutters and people like that. Which, and then, again, talk about bloody be in the right place, right time. Another fella called Dave Moore came along who watched me racing the 350 and 250 and said, if you want to make a name for yourself, which I still didn't know I wanted to just race, he said, you need to ride the bigger bikes. So at the end of 1975, he lent me his TZ 700, I think it was, and I went to Brands Hatch with that. And I won the 350 race on my little 350 Yamaha, and then I went out in the big race and won that. Wow. First time out, and which obviously he then said, look, I'd like you to ride for me next year. So I said, thank you to Harold Coppock, that's really kind of you, but this guy's offering me the big bikes. And that's really when it turned professional, I guess. I then started winning lots of national races, even beating some of the real big names, which was John Williams, John Newbold, Phil Reed, Paul Smart, guys that were riding 500cc bikes. Won the Castrol Award for the most promising young rider, won the Grovewood Award, this was 1976, for the most promising young rider coming through the ranks.
How old were you then?
21.
Okay.
Yeah. So quite old, really, because I didn't start till I was about 18, 19.
Super teens wasn't a thing.
No. Most people of my era started then because I had to save up for my apprenticeship wages, which was a tractor mechanic, to afford to go racing. So there was none of this. I didn't have a family. My father died when I was 12, so I didn't have any kind of someone around me to push me along. Yeah. It just seemed to happen. It just all happened. Then all of a sudden I won the British Motorcycle Championship in 76 on the TZ 750 and RG 500 that I had. And I think on one race occasion I beat Barry Sheene. It was like, again, he was my poster hero and everything else. And got a phone call winter of 76, start of 77 from Morris Knight from Suzuki's offering me a ride to do Grand Prix.
There you go.
So it was 73, 74, 75, 77, 4 years, and I'm in a Grand Prix team.
Which is a relatively short period of time, really, isn't it? Given what Grand Prix racing was back then.
Absolutely. Nowadays, someone at 21, 22 would never get a factory ride because they, like you said, they had to win a championship when they're 12, wouldn't you?
There you go.
So things have changed quite dramatically, and that's, the rest is a little bit of history. Went on to run Grand Prix with Barry for a number of years, 77, 79, sponsored by George Harrison in 78.
The George Harrison,
yeah. George Harrison, because in the end of 77, I finished 5th in the World Championship, but Suzuki's cut back on their budget and said they couldn't supply me with bikes and pay me. And I'd met George Harrison that year, and he said, "Don't worry, Stavros." My nickname is Stavros, came from Barry Sheene. And for people that don't know, that was because I was a fat kid and had curly hair. And Stavros was in Kojak with a fat plate of curly hair. Yeah. But George had got to the point where he'd got too much money. He got more money than God, I guess. And he said, "Don't worry, I'll sort you out." And he gave me £40,000 to buy some bikes and carry on. So that happened in 78. 79, Suzuki's employed me back again. Because when I left at the end of 77, they kept Barry Sheene and Pat Hennon, because Barry had won the championship and Pat had finished fourth, I think, in front of me. Yeah. But then in 78, Pat Hennon had a terrible accident at the TT, never raced again, and I was then enrolled back with Suzuki Grand Prix team, which I did with Barry in 79. And then in 80, he jumped ship and went to Yamaha, and I sort of followed him down the road. Okay. Carried on. Getting fed up with the smell of hospitals, as you do when you race motorbikes, broken legs and arms and odds and ends, and worked out at the end of 86 now. So it was pretty much a 10-year professional career I had. And I had some great sponsorship from a local sponsor called Loctite, who were based at Welwyn Garden. They're an American company. People. Yeah, they were Loctite were based in Welwyn Garden, or the UK department was. It was an American company. And they supported me for the last 3 years that I ran my own myself, but wanted to continue. And I kind of had enough. My daughter was about to be born, and I was going to get married and grow up and try to be normal, which didn't work.
Adulting.
Yeah. And they wanted to carry on. So I did. I ran a young lad called Kenny Irons, who was from Luton for a year. And then I took Keith Hewen on from Northampton, Trevor Nation, Mark Phillips, Terry Reimer, Rob McElnay, and from 87, which was the year I started the Loctite Yamaha team, to 91, to my period, and I finished running it in 91, we won pretty much everything. We were probably the most dominant team in the paddock. A bit of a Paul Bird of the time, I guess you could say. We had good sponsorship from Loctite and Yamaha, and odds and ends and bits and pieces, good riders. Rob Mack won the World British Championship. Keith Hewen won the British Championship. Mark Phillips won it. Terry Reimer did. So we were pretty much dominating the British scene, very much up against the Nortons. They were our kind of Achilles heel because they were 1500cc and we weren't. So that was that. But during that period, you don't need to ask any questions, do you? Sorry about this. I'm bumbling.
This is a perfect
babbling
You're
along.
On a perfect guest.
Babbling along. During that period of me finishing racing at 86, and in fact it was 85, truck racing kind of came to Europe and to the UK. And I think it was 85, my penultimate year of racing bikes. I got to race a truck at Donington Park. The reason I did was because my old buddy Barry Sheene was supported by DAF. DAF said, "We want you in the truck race because it would be great, his name." Yeah. They had Martin Brundle, Stig Blomqvist, lots of people from different sports. Martin from Formula One and Blomqvist from rallying and odds and ends like that. Was all sorts of different people doing it. And I was pissed off that Barry had got this driving a truck and I wanted to have a go. So I went to Mercedes-Benz at Milton Keynes, said, "Barry Sheene's driving a DAF, give me a Mercedes and I'll beat him." And I did, in all honesty. And that was there. I was then dovetailing, bike racing, running a team, truck racing. It all got a bit awkward in the end. By 1991, hugely successful bike racing team, but I was under pressure from Mercedes-Benz because I started doing the best of all their drivers, and they had got a full factory team. I was invited to Germany to go and test at the Nürburgring, short track at the Nürburgring, and was 2 seconds lap faster than the 3 drivers they already had. Wow. There was a Czech guy, a German, and 2 Germans and a Czech guy. Anyway, pretty much their contract was put in front of me, which was considerably more money than I ever earned out motorcycle racing. It was a similar contract to the DTM guys. And that was it. I retired from... Well, I went to Yamaha and I said, "Look, can't be running this anymore." And they were... I guess it worked all right because Rob McElnay, who had been my rider, wanted to run a team. Okay. So he took the team over and off I went.
He was there for a long time, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He ran Loctite. I think the first year he ran it, Loctite, and it was their brand, it became Fast Orange, and it was their hand cleaner that was owned by Loctite. And then it became Cadbury's and all sorts of other things. But anyway, I was off and my life became even better because I wasn't having to do anything apart from turn up at race meetings, jump into a factory truck, win as many races as I could, come home in my free Mercedes and free fuel card from BP, who were the sponsors and everything else, living the dream. And then, to get it slightly even more complicated, I then got doing commentary work. I'm trying to juggle that, so I couldn't miss the truck races, but I missed some of the BBC commentary jobs. And a young lad called Roger Burnett, a good friend of mine, he ended up doing the ones I couldn't do. And then I got the job of commentating on the Red Bull Air races. So I'm now back to 3 balls in the air, and I'm trying to work out which is which. Plates. Yeah, and I had to kind of spin as many as I could and sublet some of the deals that I had, because obviously I couldn't not do the truck races, but I missed some Red Bull races, I missed some superbike races and everything else. But then that all carried on, lots of balls in the air, and then actually managing a few riders. We had Sean Emmett, we had Steve Plater, doing some management work with them. But then in 1991, 2001, and that became unbelievably about 12 years of racing trucks. So I've done 12 years of whatever. 2001, Mercedes abruptly said, we're not doing it anymore. They decided to pull out of truck racing. There was no one else that was going to give me the contract like they did. But I'm now busy as hell doing commentary work. Yeah. So I then, 2001, signed a contract for BBC from 2001 through to 2013 and carried on doing that, doing superbikes, MotoGP, and covering some of the British championships as well, which was all the way through to 2013. Oh, and also fitting in doing commentary on Northwest 200, TT and everything else. So I've been a busy fella, really. And then 2013, BBC lost the contract for MotoGP. It went to BT, which I'm always going to say Dorna screwed up, because they got more money from BT, probably double that BBC were paying, but they lost 70% of the viewers.
Of course.
It's now pathetic how many people watch MotoGP compared to how it was. And that's a shame for the sport. But my life still continued doing lots of different things. I started my own theatre show called The Mad Tour, carried on doing Northwest TT, and events, really, hosting events and so on and so on. And here we are now in, 2024. And my calendar or diary is about right. I don't do as much as I used to, but I've got enough work to keep my mind occupied. I love my tennis and golf that I play regularly, and I have a boat and a house in Mallorca that I go to as many times as I can.
And you also fly?
I do, yeah. Plummet Airways is my hub. Plummet Airways hub is here, where the runway's outside. And
you've written a book?
Yeah, my book, The Parrish Times, has been hugely successful.
That was a couple of 3 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, that would have been probably 5 years ago now, I guess.
Wow.
It's done over 28,000 books I've sold.
Fantastic.
Which has gone really well. And now just this year starting a tour with Henry Cole, who is incredible. He's a bit of a, I guess you'd say, like Guy Martin. He's the housewife choice. He's really nice, funny guy, takes the piss out of himself. And is the only person really that puts motorcycles on TV now, apart from racing.
Yeah.
And he runs lots of shows like Find It, Fix It, Flog It, Shed and Buried, Motorbike Show. And I get on ever so well with him. And there's a great story by Henry Cole. If you see this before the shows go out, which are in April and May.
So possibly, yeah.
Possibly. Henry was born with a silver spoon in his mouth down in Norfolk, came from a very well-to-do family. And we talk about silver spoons in people's mouths, but Henry used that silver spoon to scoop up all sorts of chemicals and things that you'd probably put up your nose. And then he admits it. He was a complete heroin addict.
Wow.
Got out of that somehow after going to school at Eton, was in the same class as Boris Johnson and David Cameron, and became a war correspondent cameraman, made a movie with Liz Hurley in it, wasn't very successful, and now runs Henry Cole Associates, HCA, and is buzzing, flying.
Doing really well.
Very, very well. And as I say, the first 2 shows are already sold out, so I'm really pleased with that.
So there's no rest for you, really?
No, not really. I guess one day I'm just going to drop dead on the job or something like that. I don't really know. But
you'd get bored if you weren't doing anything.
I would. I hate it. People say, when are you going to retire? No way will I retire, as long as the phone rings.
Yeah.
And if the phone doesn't ring, I'll start doing something myself. So, No, I'm loving what I'm doing because it's just about right. I've got plenty of time to myself, but I'm also working. Oh, I do the motorcycle show at the NEC. Yeah. I've just come back from doing the London show for the MCN show.
The XL,
yeah. The XL. So, yeah. Living the dream, I guess you say.
So, I invited you on here and you kindly invited me to your house on the OMG podcast. The point of the OMG podcast is to get to some nitty gritty.
And it stands for Oh My God, does it? Or
or if you're not religious, Oh My Gosh.
Okay.
If you're of the woke brigade.
Okay. So it makes me giggle now because I do these theatre shows and people keep saying, you're now supposed to say, good evening, everybody, not ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, well, I now still say good evening, ladies and gentlemen, any other weird whatever's you are out there, and then whatever's Absolutely. Out there. I don't really want you here, but nevertheless, carry on, enjoy yourself.
There you go.
So I'm anti-woke, I have to say.
It's the world is a funny place at the moment, and I can't see it changing.
No, I can't. So, I'm old. The good thing is I'm old, so I'm not going to have to encounter some of it.
No, I've got a few more years left.
Cheers to that.
So, hit me with at least a couple of your OMG moments. So they, as I explained to you previously before we came on air, they don't have to be positive and, rainbows and puppy dogs. They can be dark, meaningful, sentimental, just moments in your life where you've had to, or where you have been made to stop and think, wow, oh my God.
I've probably got a lot of those, but it's funny how I am a glass half full person. I tend to put the nightmares in the back
Behind
of the brain, and looking on the positive side. I'm really good at making out whatever I've done is good. People outside of me must be, oh, he's fucked up. Oh, sorry, he screwed up this time. But I still make a positive out of that. And I've had lots of things that.
I mean, a big one must have been Barry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In my motorcycle racing world, I can categorise it in different things. Motorcycle racing world, I fell off leading the British Grand Prix with 1 lap to go with 3-second lead, and that I could have been famous. But no, it would have been so nice because it would have helped my career in the fact that no British rider has ever won the Premier Class of the British Grand Prix, even to this day. Okay. So I would like to have done that. Spending a career life, I guess you'd say, with not life because I only met him when I was 20 years old and he was 23. So we spent 10 years, 12, 14 years, I guess, of having a lot of fun. His departure was absolutely tragic.
This is Barry Sheene.
I'm talking about Barry Sheene. The number 7. I never believed that anything normal could take Barry Sheene away. He was,
invincible.
Absolutely crashed his brains out and bust himself up and kept coming back. He was like that Monty Python thing where they chop your arms off.
Still comes,
But Barry Sheene did. He succumbed to cancer of the esophagus in your throat. And if he's up there now and when I come to see him, if he did screw up, it was the fact that he didn't go and have an operation. And I think I understand why, because Barry had got through every single thing that he encountered in his life. And I think he genuinely thought that cancer wouldn't take him. And he went off to Mexico and America and he had all sorts of potions and bits and pieces, and people were telling him, we can fix you. Well, obviously they didn't, but he did leave a full life. He died at the age of 53, and he smoked 40 fags. He packed up for 4 years before he passed away. Okay. But he did lead a fairly hectic life.
He was a similar character to James Hunt.
He was, albeit that James was probably posher and went to a better school than Barry, and Barry was the Cockney kid that did good. But they gelled because Barry could gel with anyone, and I think James did as well. But arguably, he probably signed his own death warrant to a certain extent with his fags. It's been said that it wasn't that killed him, but I'm not too sure. But he would not want to be an old fella. He wouldn't want to be like me with hair falling out and
the afro's gone.
And not doing the things that he used to do, because he would have absolutely rebelled against what's going on in this world now.
Climbing the walls.
Oh, absolutely. If he couldn't touch someone's bum or whatever, and this, that, and the other, and not nastily,
No, in an affectionate way.
In an affectionate way and a fun way. So that was awful. What other things? I've come close to killing myself a couple of times in my plane, which I love. I don't love it because at the time I'm thinking, oh shit, I wish I was on the ground.
And the name of your plane is?
It's Plummet Airways. My airline is known as Plummet Airways. I've owned about 5 or 6 aeroplanes. I think I could truthfully say that the closest I've come to thinking I'm going to die, and I fell off motorbikes at 170 miles an hour, but never felt I was going to die because I'm a lucky bastard and I've slid down the road.
Little,
and I've slid down the road. I broke my legs and arms, but I've never been in that sort of, oh my God, this is it. Because I've always felt that I would come through it. And again, it's only sheer luck and just the way it ran. But I was coming back from Magny Cours from a World Superbike event I was commentating on, would have been pre-COVID, so I guess 20 or something like that.
So relatively recently.
Yeah. And rushing to get back because it was getting dark at Plummet Airways here. And sadly, we don't have any lights here, apart from the fact that I phoned my wife, because phones work really good up there in planes. And autopilots are good. And I said, take the car and park it down the western end of the runway and shine the lights up the runway, and I'll try and land in the dark. But I'm in a sort of a descent coming down over Royston, and how I missed it, I don't know. But my lights on the plane, which they're like car lights, I encountered a tree right in front of me. So I'd got down too low, got my atmospheric pressures wrong on the altitude meter, and managed to override the autopilot and yank it up and scoop over a tree. But I must admit, when I landed, I thought that would have been a big accident. I wouldn't have survived.
That was a squeaky bum moment.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, very much so. And I've had a few things in bad weather, as you do. But I think I have led a relatively charmed life. Tragically, my poor dog died about
That's quite recently, wasn't it?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
A lovely Springer Spaniel called Nellie had a seizure or a heart attack or whatever, and took me a few days to get over that. My wife thinks I'm a hard, selfish bastard, and I think I became that person. I'm not, because I know I'm not, but I came a little bit that way by losing so many mates racing motorbikes. I lost over 20 people, and I could count now, that I knew very, very well.
Speaking
Nelly,
of dogs.
talking of Nelly, Nelly, look into the camera over there, and you're Nelly 2, because this Nelly came because Nelly 1 died, and this one's very similar. But you've got to go down there because it's very important. This is on telly now, all right? Go sit down.
Nelly 2.0.
And you've got now, she's been drinking water, and you've got water on your thing. But I think, yeah, I did become quite a hardened person. I've grown out of it a bit now. I'm definitely more emotional than I was. But
is that because you've moved out of that circle where so many people
I think less people smash themselves to bits. You know, I'd come away from race meetings and there'd be a truck parked up and a caravan because that person died at the race meeting, and
they can't go home.
And I couldn't think about that because I wanted to go to the next race meeting.
Yeah.
So I think it does make you a slightly hardened person. And unemotional, because if it got to you, you wouldn't be doing
it, would you? No,
especially when you go off the Isle of Man, you get on the ferry and know that maybe 2 people aren't coming home. Nelly, come on. Come, lay down. There, sit. Sorry about this. Sit, Nelly, sit. So you can
Never work with children or animals.
Yeah, I see I've got to train very well.
I've got both of them beside me at the moment.
Exactly. A child and an animal. So I think I've become a more normal person. I've just had a granddaughter, grandson, I beg your pardon. My daughter's just had a grandson.
Daughter Frankie.
Yeah, my daughter Frankie, who...
Hey, Frankie. Hope you're well.
Hi, Franks, who used to host my shows, the Mad Tour shows. And so, yeah, I'm becoming I wouldn't say pipe and slippers, but I'm kind of moving along that area. But I still love riding motorbikes. I still love being involved in it. Racing and anything that goes on with it.
Okay. I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast that you did or do hold a world record.
Reversing. Yeah, can you believe that?
Do you still hold? Is that still yours?
I believe so. Yeah. It was put to me in between what I've already rabbited on about. I forgot to mention this. I race cars as well. Whilst running my BP race truck for Mercedes-Benz, BP UK decided, as I was contracted to them and they were paying loads of money, they wanted me to do more events in the UK because there would only be one truck Grand Prix in the UK. Nelly, sit. So they bought a Caterham, little Caterham 7s, fantastic thing. It was the Vauxhall series, which had the 2-litre engines, so they're quite fast. And I ran in that, and I got a good relationship with Caterham UK, and they decided that they wanted to set a new world record because Caterham's built some cars with motorbike engines, you're probably aware of. I think they were Hayabusa engines. Problem with motorbikes engines in cars, they don't have reverse gear. So what they used to do is put in a nice little transfer box so that you put it into first gear and it had a reverse. which had a lock to only go in first gear. But if you remove that lock, it had 6 reverse gears. So we went to Bruntingthorpe with the camera crew. Guinness Book of Records turned up there, and I think I did, I don't know, it's nearly 100 mile an hour in reverse. And would have gone faster, but it melted the transfer gearbox on the second run, and that was the end of it.
Fantastic.
So that was another little world record. I did a lot of TV shows back in the days.
You Bet, didn't you?
You Bet. I did about 4 of them. First one I ever did was... What was the first one? I know, it was racing or driving my truck around Mallory Park, blindfolded.
I've seen the video of this.
With my team manager telling me where to steer. And we had the steering wheel and we put like a knob on it like you'd have on a combine or something.
Or a tractor or
that
whatever,
had 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, that sort of. Nelly, you're playing up now, you'll get... Stop it. That was the first one, and I had to do it within 10% of my normal time, and I did.
Yeah.
Then they thought, that was really good fun. So they then said, could you do something with an aeroplane? So we went, at the time, I kept my aeroplane at Falmere, and the chief flying instructor sat beside me, and I had to take off and land blindfolded with him telling me what to do.
Wow.
So it was like probably a blind person.
Yeah.
And I did it. And the takeoff was quite easy because it's like you could hear the revolutions.
Yeah.
He would be telling you doing 65, 70 knots, rotate, go up. And he was going, right, and it was a circuit round. At least I couldn't hit anything up there unless there was another plane. The landing was quite tricky because it's a job to trust yourself when someone's just telling it. But it was, right, you're on finals now, keep it straight now, flaps down, right, you've now got 100 knots, so on and so on, so on, so on. You're now 80 feet, 50 feet, whatever, and flare, and we did that. Then the next one I did was with a local guy here. You might have come across Terry Grant.
Yeah, he's like
Terry Grant,
fantastic stunt driver.
Really great stunt driver. And the setup was that we had to get a low loader truck, which was the transporter for my race truck that used to go around Europe. Mm-hmm. Get a van, and then a car, and then a motorbike, I think it was, and load them all up on top of one another whilst doing 40 miles an hour. Wow. So again, we went to Bruntingthorpe and the transporter pulled off, and then the pickup went up here, and then the car went up here with ramps down that had rollers on it, and then I had to ride a motorbike on the back of that.
There you go.
And that did that, and then the final one I did, they must have been short of stuff. Who was it? Matthew Kelly, I think, used to do it.
Yeah. Is he still alive?
I don't know. Yeah, he is. I'm sure I've seen him. Anyway, I had to go down to somewhere, Devon, I think it was, and race. And I was I had a contract with Mercedes, get a Mercedes SL 65 or something, and race it on a grass field against a polo pony. And they set up a slalom, where you had to go through this and through that. And the polo pony was doing that, and we set off at the same time. And the car obviously was only 2-wheel drive and wasn't real good on grass and this, that, and the other. And the horse actually was going to win, but I blew my hooter and it shot off.
You scared the horse.
So I scared the horse.
The horse bolted.
I know I shouldn't do it for animal lovers, but anyway. So I ended up winning that. But so that was another You Betty problem. But it was quite interesting back then because there was a bit more interesting in motorsports, maybe on TV shows.
It was on the
and
mainstream
like,
telly, it wasn't terrestrial
and
TV.
kids programs. Like I did a race with my 2,000 horsepower truck against a Porsche 911 turbo, and it went from 0 to 100, and the truck beat it easy. And people go, can't believe this, yeah. So there was probably a bit more mainstream stuff that. And
you're known for being a practical joker, but you've had the tables turned on you once or twice, haven't you? Yeah.
And you're probably referring to the biggest one was Beatles About.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, Beatles About, it started. I've always had an interest in unusual vehicles, I guess you would say, and this all stemmed from the ownership of a fire engine, even though it was an old fire engine. But when I bought it, or I bought it with a mate of mine,
so it's like a Green Goddess type fire engine.
Yeah, no, it was a proper red fire engine, but a Dennis. It was going back. It was quite old,
early 80s. Sort of thing.
Nelly Sit. And I bought it with a mate of mine called John Brown, who you've probably met. And we decided one sunny Sunday afternoon it'd be quite good. And I think the football or rugby was on in the village pub. We shot round to the village pub and hosed it out, making out it was on fire. And just cleared it out. Yeah, it wasn't. But everyone ran out thinking it was, and all looking at the ceiling. Nelly, that's enough now. I know you've had your dinner. So anyway, he was incensed. He was not happy.
The landlord.
Steve Roberts, his name was. I had to sit down. So he with him, and I think John Brown was involved. They wrote a letter to London Weekend Television, said, we've got this knobhead that lives in the village here. He's always causing troubles and this, that and the other. Can you come and get him? And lo and behold, they did. And completely unknown to me, unknown to my wife at the time, who was pregnant with Frankie, my daughter. Yeah. I was invited, Yamaha were involved with it, Loctite, all the sponsors were involved with it, invited down to Yamaha for a meeting, got to Chessington when it was Mitsui Yamaha, spoke about a couple of things, but it could have been done on the phone. I couldn't understand why I'd been down there. Normally when I went for a meeting at Yamaha's, with at least buy me lunch for travelling all the way down there. I think I had to pick a bike up, so I did have my van. Got back to...
And you were suited and booted as well.
Absolutely, got jacket and suit and whatever on, and pulled up at my workshops where I was living, and was confronted by a policeman going, you can't go down there. I said, I can go down there, it's my bloody property. No, you can't. Anyway, I pretty much barged past him. He said there's a NATO exercise taking place, and sure enough, when I drove around the corner, there was armoured cars, anti-aircraft guns, bloody NATO exercise with machine guns. It was a war, a battlefield. Even a helicopter flying over. I mean, it was monstrous. And just as I got out of the vehicle, this other policeman says, who are you? What are you doing? I said, I live here. Have you got any identification? I'm now getting my credit card out or something. And just as that happened, there's a massive, great explosion, and I'm now ducking down. It was such an enormous scale that Nelly, we're busy. It was such a huge scale that I couldn't believe it was a joke. Because I mean, I know people that play jokes, and I've played jokes on it, but you don't. This was hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of equipment were there. Anyway, carried on. Next, another big explosion. I then get a tin hat on, and I'm looking a right knob. And sure enough, it all ends with Jeremy Beadle turning up on a moped and sidecar, and they properly had me. Yeah. So that was quite a good one. And over the years, Nelly, stop pestering us. Over the years, there's been so many pranks played on different people. I even got Barry Sheene on one occasion. He came to visit my house and came in for coffee. And I explained that we had trouble with the travellers, is it called?
Yeah. I think that's a polite term.
I call them gypsies, but I think they're called travellers. And we had break-ins and whatever. But I've always, and in fact, I've got some in my garage here. I've always got
travellers.
Big. I've always got what I'm about to explain is big bags of windscreen glass. Always worth having bag of windscreen glass.
The broken bits.
Yep. And while he was having his coffee, I got his key, went out, and he had a Mercedes 450, I think, or something like that. Wound the window down, and I had the same car, 450. I knew where the fuse was for the windows. Wound the window down, chucked broken glass on his passenger seat and a brick. And when he went to go, I'm going, oh no, I don't believe it. They've been back here or whatever. Is anything missing out the car? Anyway, I lent him some plastic and he taped it all up and drove back to Crawley Auto Windshields and ordered a window, and they went to put it in and took the door panel off and realised it was just wound down.
Still in there anyway, just wound down.
Oh, but there's been a lot of pranks and things going on. The fire engine got used a lot. We went to Nebworth once to see Genesis, couldn't afford the tickets, took the fire engine, and they parked us right down the front with the St John's ambulance. We ended up with a profit because we put a bucket out. And so
fantastic. Beer money.
Absolutely. Ambulances was good for going on holidays with, because traffic jams didn't bother you. Went down the outside and you could put the jet ski in the back. Armoured cars were good fun. Number of things. Police cars, police motorbikes, hearses. Quite good to turn up at Cambridge Crematorium before they even open. The bloke comes out with his sheath. Can't believe what's happening, and then skidding off out.
There we go.
So yeah, I've enjoyed my vehicle. At the moment, I must say, I don't have any strange vehicles. I've sold the police car, so I'm on the lookout.
There's a gap. So any of you got any unusual vehicles?
That's enough.
Steve will definitely be interested. Hit us up and we'll put you in touch.
Yeah.
Steve Parrish, it's been an absolute pleasure. We could ramble on for hours. I know we could.
We certainly could. There's no question about it.
Maybe we'll do an OMG Steve Parrish 2.0.
Yeah. Or if it all goes wrong, you don't get time, come to my funeral. I've got a load of stuff sorted out ready for that. So I actually want to go myself, but I'm not sure if I can do that, because nowadays it's not seen as the right thing to do to fake your death, is it?
No, very kind.
Right, and Nelly, come here. Nelly, come here. Come on, up you come.
This is Nelly, the failed drunk stop.
Nelly, oh, up you come. There you go. Nelly's going to say goodbye. Look at the camera over there. Look, see it over there? And say goodbye. Ta-ta. Oh, hang on, here we go.
Steve, Nelly, thank you very much.
All
Cheers.
the best.
Thank you.